Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our communities. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay here? And oh my goodness, here we are. I have another special guest that I'm getting to bring to you today as I'm going to introduce to you Danny Rojas. Danny is the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition at the Container Store. Danny is also the recipient of the Recruiting Leader of the Year for 2024, presented by Dallas HR at the HR Stars. And it's so good to have you on the show. How you doing, Danny?
I'm doing well, Bruce. Thank you so much for having me. Of course, excited to be here and to potentially reach some of your audience. Excited about this awards as well. It was very exciting to potentially be at that show and to be selected as a finalist. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I always like to start the show with like a little reflection on like when I met my guests. I've known you, I've met you before, I've known who you are, but I got a chance to really like see you in a different light. Kenny Braxton was right there with us. I mean, it was the who's who of HR and talent acquisition in that room. What'd you think about that event overall?
Yeah, it truly was a night. It's a great event to get everybody together, to get leaders from all over the Dallas Fort Worth area together, and then of course to recognize some well-deserving individuals, right? And in the grand scheme of things, I was very surprised to not only be nominated, selected as a finalist, but to win that award. Right, I've been in the talent acquisition space for almost 8 years now,
Yeah.
supporting it in the civilian space as a recruiting leader for only 4 years. So it's been an incredible journey. Been able to accomplish a lot, and going and being nominated with such incredible talent here in the Dallas Fort Worth area is truly a blessing and a wonderful surprise.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because, like, when they called your name, like you knew you were nominated, and it was so cool. But
Sure.
I'm just like, they call your name, and it's
Right.
like, oh my good, like that feeling. What did that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, it was a surreal moment for me, right? A really surprising moment. I think some of the folks that were nominated were also sitting around me, right? So being so close to them in proximity, right, kind of made me nervous. And then walking up to the stage, seeing Kenny, who's been a mentor to me, and, giving him a big hug
Mm.
and walking up to the stage. Really lost all my train of thought, though, to be honest. I had about 9 different versions of my award speech, what I thought was memorized. They all went away in that
Uh,
moment, and I just had an opportunity to thank the people that I've served with, and the recruiters, and of course my wife. It was her birthday that night, so got to
oh,
highlight her as well. Yeah, so
I don't think I realized that. Well, happy late
yeah,
birthday.
yeah, late birthdays to her, but
Yeah,
she
that's
spent her
awesome.
night with us there, and it was a great moment.
That's awesome. And it's so special when you get to share it with friends and family, and it makes it even better. And man, I was so happy for you. I mean, the energy was incredible. And yeah, I always tell people we don't do the work to get recognized, but it sure is really special when we recognize those that are doing the work. And I just think that was so cool. We're going to talk talent acquisition. We're going to talk recruiting. But before we do, I would love for those who may not know the Container Store, share just a brief highlight about who the Container Store is and how do you serve your customers?
Of course. So the Container Store, it's kind of a boutique retailer, right? So we sell organizational products, storage solutions, custom services, but it truly exists to transform the lives through the power of organization. So we offer a wide range of products in brick and mortar and in online, for custom services and organizational products, whatever it is that you're trying to get done in your home, whether it's building a master closet or sprucing up the pantry with some top of the line quality bins and organizers. TCS has you covered, right? So I think what really sets the Container Store apart as a retailer that mostly sells organizational products is the passion that our people bring to transforming lives, really one organized space at a time, right? So we offer it all. It's a one-stop shop for everything organization.
Okay, I love everything you shared there, but I wrote down the word passion because I think
Yeah.
passion is so important. We're all looking for passionate people. Even in our mission statement, it talks about having passionate people in the organization. And I'm just curious, like, I've got some things I want to talk to you about, but I want to talk to you about passion for a second. Like, Is that important? Like in that recruiting process, are you looking for passionate people? How do you know people have passion? I'm curious for that. For those that are listening, like how do you know someone has passion?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something that we should be as recruiters looking for in every candidate that we speak with. And there's a couple of different ways to determine that somebody has a passion for either the company that they're potentially applying for, or the position in which they're applying for. Right,
Hmm.
and it comes out in the way that they maybe describe their work experience, and maybe the way that they answer situational or behavioral based questions. You can tell there's a little bit of energy behind it,
Hmm.
maybe a smile. One thing that I think is a good tell, and it's somebody that catches themselves talking about it for a little bit too long in the interview, right? So that's usually somebody that is very passionate about it, and they're
Hmm.
having a little bit of trouble controlling that passion.
Hmm.
But I encourage them,
Hmm.
to continue to be excited about it, to show that. Um, and of course, I'll get us back on track if we need to. But I think those are some good things to be on the lookout for: is that energy, that that contagious kind of spirit for whatever the subject matter is that you're talking about.
I love that. As a matter of fact, I always talk about how whenever I go and I talk to our team, when I hit that energy button, when I start talking about something that they're very interested in, their energy level just goes up a notch. Like I remember talking to one of our move coordinators about their kids and their football I'd noticed on Instagram, and all of a sudden their energy level just went and they got so excited. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, there's their passion. And so, man, I love all of that. Hey, man, I want to get to know Danny Rojas. I would love for you to share your story and like, how did you, like, where did you grow up and how in the world did you get into talent acquisition and leadership today?
Sure, sure. It's a great question. I have a bit of an interesting story. I won't go too long with it, but I'm a Dallas Fort Worth, born and raised. I have a tell that I tell folks, which is I'm a 9/11 influenced enlistee. So it means that I enlisted or decided to enlist in the military because of 9/11. Right. So initially, what contributed to me wanting to serve my country, and that's really where my journey began in the third grade, walking out of the school building and seeing the towers fall. It's really what inspired everything that I am today. So I kept that with me as I went throughout grade school, and going into high school. I really prepared for it. I ended up joining the military in my 11th grade year and being considered in the Army for a little bit over a year before I shipped off, went to basic training, and served as an infantryman for 6 years until I got into recruiting. And there's a point in every soldier's career, Bruce, where you have to decide whether you want to go and become a drill sergeant, or you want to become a recruiter.
Mm.
And I know you can't tell by looking at me, but I stand at a very proud and modest 5'5". Imagine how I'd feel staring at a 6'2" soldier, right, telling him to go on a 10-mile run, or to do some push-ups.
Mm.
It's not me. I couldn't do it, right? So I volunteered for recruiting duty. And throughout that time, I also led, a bunch of soldiers, a bunch of different teams as well. So I have a
Mm.
lot of leadership experience from that time as well. I found myself in TA, volunteered for, again, that recruiting duty.
Mm.
And from graduating number two in my 7-week recruiting school, all the way into day-to-day Army recruiting here in Dallas, Fort Worth, actually in the Fort Worth Ridgemar recruiting station. I absolutely fell in love with everything that was talent acquisition, and I transitioned out to the civilian side at that time. And it's been a great experience ever since.
Hey, I want to ask you, first of all, thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
of course. Thank you. Thank you.
Truly appreciate that. The 9/11 story just it really hits me. It hits everyone. And I'm just curious in third grade when like you're going through that. Did you have family? Did you have a connection there? Did you just like somebody talk to you about it? Like how did that hit you so hard as a third grader?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've never had anybody in my family that served.
Hmm.
Um, in fact, my sister was the first one to ever graduate from college. She got her
Hmm.
bachelor's degree, first one on both sides.
That's
I was the
awesome.
first one to join the military on both sides as well. So we don't come from a background where it was normal to do that. I think what resonated with me on that day was just the sacrifice of the soldiers that went afterwards,
Mm.
and because of the 9/11, of course, and those that lost their life. I wanted to give back to that. I think it's
Mm.
core to who I am, and I'm sure we'll chat about that as we get further along
Yeah.
in the show. But um, just wanting to serve our country, serve my country, is something that
It's awesome.
resonated with me following that. So
I love that. I love that. I
yeah.
wrote the book Drive with Purpose, and I like hearing this. I'm like, man, there's a lot of purpose in this, and I love that. Hey, was it? And I'm just curious. I like to ask this question as well because I've talked to many different organizations, and many of those who've served. The transition from military to civilian, was that difficult for you?
Yeah, it wasn't easy by any means,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think for me it was challenging, but I was also very fortunate to transition at the perfect time for a recruiter to transition. Right, the
Mm.
pandemic was over, recruiting was
Mm.
soaring, and companies were hiring, and with that, hiring recruiters to do the hiring. So
Mm.
I was very fortunate to transition at that time, but it was still challenging. It was lonely. It was just a bombardment of advice and guidance
Mm.
from different organizations and people, and all well received, but sometimes contradicting. So
Mm.
it was challenging, but I went through it through a support of my wife, and of course with the kids and everything on the mind, right? So it actually led me to create an organization, a mentorship program, really, that's called Tailored Vets. Me and my wife are the founder and co-founder of that organization, and we've helped to date about 11 other soldiers transition from the military.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those actually coming from HR and talent acquisition backgrounds. It's kind of where our specialty, we kind of landed in this niche accidentally. But it's been really rewarding watching those that we've worked with succeed and helping them in their transition in what we call a lifetime mentorship program. So I still get calls to this day asking about a Teams call that went away, right? So helping them out and helping them guide through those conversations.
And I do like to talk about mentors because I think that's a common thread
Oh
when
yeah,
it comes to high performers. It just is. I mean, everybody I talk to on the podcast, when I ask them about mentors, they're like, "Hey, I wouldn't be here today if I wouldn't have had mentors to help me get to where I am, and that's why I like to mentor others." I would love for you to talk about maybe a couple of people that helped you, especially. And as you said a word that I wrote down. I wrote down lonely. And I guarantee there's some people listening right now.
sure.
They're transitioning into civilian or they're transitioning just in general.
Of
And
course.
it's tough.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what were like share maybe the power of mentorship and maybe a couple of people that helped you on your way and what was it that made them a good mentor?
I certainly would not be here if it wasn't for the mentors and the people in my life who led me to where I am today. But before I jump in to thank any one person, I
Mm-hmm.
have to say, Bruce, I'm a man of faith, right? So for me, it's very very important that I find my mentorship, through Christ, and He's my
Mm-hmm.
most faithful advisor and mentor. Statistically
Mm-hmm.
speaking, I shouldn't be where I am today, so incredibly thankful for His guiding hand. But to the folks that He's put in my path, and really laid before me, to leverage, starts with some school teachers who kind of directed me in the right path,
Mm-hmm.
right? So some that I still carry their advice today, all the way to some talent acquisition leaders that I've purposely sought out to learn from, right? So Kenny Braxton is one of those folks. Cold messaged him on LinkedIn, and asked him. I said, "Hey, I'm having some obstacles in this area. I understand you're an expert in these spaces. How can I lean on you? What can So we started our mentorship that way. And Shannon Taylor, leader over of talent acquisition
Mm-hmm.
at JC Penney,
Yeah.
Nikki Gibson, another well-known leader here in the area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. All leaders that I've had really the privilege of learning from
Mm-hmm.
and leveraging to guide me as I go throughout my journey. Some of the things that I think make them the great mentors, if you will, is the fact that they're honest.
Mm.
Right? they're very honest with me about my shortcomings, about areas where I can improve, and it doesn't stop there, right? It goes into a coaching session where they either ask me questions that help me come to the solution on my own, right? Or it comes with, this is what I've seen as successes. So it's not just being direct and honest with me about it, but providing examples or questions that help me get to a potential solution in any one situation,
I
right?
love all
That's where
that.
the great mentorship and guidance really comes in. And they've always been there. It's been a great journey with them. That's a great question. I appreciate you asking it.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I wrote down honest, being honest, and sometimes honest it will challenge you, won't it?
Of course.
And
Yeah,
so you have to be willing to be challenged. If somebody's going to like, okay, I'm asking the question, I got to be open because if they tell me something I don't like, I got to be open to changing that, modifying that, whatever I need to do there. And then, of course, giving you examples by asking just tough questions to help you become better. I love that. I love that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be ready for constructive criticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Growth doesn't all come easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be ready for that criticism and to take it wholeheartedly and to act on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what great makes a great mentor and mentee relationship.
Yeah. And you're surrounded by great people, and that's going to allow you for even more growth or even accelerate your growth because you're surrounded by such great people and you can take all these different, things that they're doing that inspire you and make it your own, right? And
Absolutely.
accelerate that way. I love that. I love all of that. This is so good. And by the way, if you're okay after the show, I'll put your link to your organization that you're doing for mentoring in the show notes as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're always looking for new soldiers to take on as they transition. And I'm always open to helping anybody else that's transitioning, whether it be a career or,
Hmm.
uh, you know, potentially trying to find their way back from, the challenges that we're experiencing today, right? A lot of layoffs happening. So I've been there for a lot of those folks. And I've gotten some advice that I should charge for it, but it doesn't make sense to me, right? It's let's help people while we can. So I'm always willing to help people revise their resume, whatever it is.
I love
I'll
it.
find the time to make it
I,
work. So
I love it. This is so good. Oh my goodness. I got chills. By the way, if you're listening right now, you need to be taking notes here because I already have a full page of notes. I got to turn over my paper to start on my second page. Hey, let's talk about the recruiting landscape today. What's it like? Because you get kind of these mixed signals, you get these signals like companies are, they're not hiring right now and nothing's happening. And then you get these other signals like, hey, companies are hiring. Talk a little
yeah,
bit about that.
yeah. So it's a very very interesting time in the world of recruiting. I think because there's a lot of growth in some areas, right, in
Mm-hmm.
some sectors, but you're also seeing a lot of layoffs in some areas and some
Mm-hmm.
sectors. So I think for recruiters and for job seekers alike, they have to be very creative with what they're doing on a day to day, right? So, for example, for a job seeker, that may be that's potentially impacted by a recent layoff or downsizing, whatever it is. That may be being okay with stepping out of your industry that you've served,
Mm-hmm.
15, 20 years in. That may be, looking at a different career that leverages your soft skills that you've learned throughout that, first portion of your career. It's getting creative with how you do everything. It's dropping the, apply and pray method, and it goes to apply, network, right? And
Mm,
what I say is be persistent, right? So
mm.
persistence in my career search was key, and Nikki Gibson will tell you that I bothered her a lot throughout our our process together on the very beginning of that. So persistence is key for sure, but be comfortable being uncomfortable
Mm,
and be creative with your search and how you reach people and reach hiring managers and recruiters. And as recruiters, you have to get creative with the talent that you're finding for the organization, because organizations today, Bruce, I think, are being asked to do more with less
mm-hmm,
and in a faster time to hire, right?
mm,
Because things are so uncertain, right?
mm,
Consumer sentiment is down. Companies are trying to react, but don't know in exactly which direction,
Mm.
the economy and things are going to go. So they're asking a lot of recruiters right now. And we have to get creative with how we find that talent, how we engage that talent, who we bring to the business, and even how we offer that talent, right? How do you find the happy medium between a company budget line and a candidate's expected compensation, right? So it's
Mm.
challenging.
Mm. I love that. And I wrote down being comfortable with being uncomfortable, not being afraid to shift. I remember years ago when I shifted from operations to sales and marketing, and it really changed the course of my career. But you said, and of course, I wrote down persistence. I mean, that's got to be part of it. Like you've got to be persistent. But I wrote down networking. And
Yes,
I like to talk
absolutely.
about networking. That's probably how I built my career through one coffee at a time, through one meeting at a time, connecting. And it's one of those things I always say it's easy and it's hard, right? It's really easy to go to an event, but it's hard because all of a sudden it's the end of the day and you're like, oh my gosh, I got all these other things to do, but you go to the event. Talk about networking. How important has that been for you on your journey? And for those listening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, networking is really how I got to where I am today. I think
Mm,
to the community that is built within Dallas HR. That's how I got there, and how I've built so many relationships within that community alone. But one thing that I always encourage people, and I talk about this a lot with the mentees as a part of Tailored Vets, is don't just look at in-person networking events. Also look
mm,
at ways to get involved virtually,
okay.
right? Whether it's a virtual coffee session, or it's a lunch and learn, or maybe it's a webinar. Get involved in the chat. Ask
Mm,
questions. Respond to other members that may be also asking questions. Applaud certain statements that are made within the webinar, or certain sections of it. Get your name out there,
mm,
and you'll find that people naturally will gravitate towards you if you are active enough in those
mm.
virtual environments. So definitely try that. Another thing that I like is that I recommend is reverse networking. Right?
Reverse.
Oftentimes, yeah, reverse networking.
Okay.
Oftentimes we reach out to folks and we say, "Hey, I'm Danny. I'm looking, for X, Y, and Z position. If you know of anything in the area, let me know." And there's a lot of people that will help out,
Hmm.
but there's such an influx of that today. So flip it on its head a little bit and reach out to somebody and say, "Hey, my name is Danny. I'm an expert in X, Y, and Z areas. Is there anything that I could help you with?
Mm,
How can I help you in whatever it is that they're doing?" And that requires a little bit of research, takes more than, 30 seconds to draft that message, because you really got to dive into the person. But reverse networking, I have found, has a lot of success with people, because you're not reaching out for an ask.
mm,
You're reaching out with a hand and saying, "How can I help?"
mm. That is so good. Reverse networking. I've had over 200 guests on the show. I don't know if I've talked about reverse networking, and that is fantastic. And you said something though that I think is important. You said it requires a little bit extra effort. You need to like
Yeah,
go out and like research who you're actually going to ask that question to, but the reward in that. I always say we give, we when we give, we get, but we don't give to get. We just give, but it just comes back tenfold. But when you reach out and help someone, there's just so much in that, isn't there?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's one of my passion points, right? Is giving back to people,
Mm,
and I think so many people resonate with that. That if you
yeah.
try it, you might be surprised at what you find at the end of that.
Yeah. And I also like what you said about the networking virtually, getting involved. It's just like if you go to an organization, you mentioned Dallas HR earlier, you can't just show up. You got to get involved. And I love how you said you can get involved in the chat. Because what happens is that when you ask those questions in the chat, all of a sudden people got their eyes on you and they're like, all of a sudden you start building brand, don't you? And brand's pretty important, isn't it?
Absolutely, personal branding. I mean, it defines who you are as an individual, maybe as a professional for sure.
Mm,
I think there's a lot of importance that we've kind of missed out on in the fast pacedness of things. Post COVID, it's personal branding is key. right?
Mm,
It defines who you are to other people that may not know you already. So
mm,
by building out a strong personal brand, again, getting involved in the chat, getting involved in community engagement, right? Whether it's volunteerism or whatever it is, being an SME in your space, all of those things contribute to your personal branding and who you are. But it gives other people a tell about what it might be like to work with you,
mm.
to potentially network with you, and all of those things can lead to whether it be additional relationships or
Yeah.
job opportunities. There's a lot behind that door.
And it kind of leads me to this. I was actually thinking, and I'm going to be the voice of a lot of people that are listening to the show right now, and they're like, "Hey, how can I differentiate myself if I want to go work for a certain company? If I wanted to go work for the Container Store, I want to go work for another company I'm applying for because there's a lot of people applying for these jobs. How can I like differentiate myself from you being on the other side? I don't know. Talk about that. How can someone differentiate themselves?
As a recruiter and as a recruiting leader, I train my team, and I'm very very intentional about looking at those that reach out to us directly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, for example, reaching out to a recruiter or a hiring manager and saying, "Hey, my name is so and so. I applied for X, Y, and Z position. I really think that I could, give back in this, way, X, Y, or Z, whatever that looks like. Maybe I have these skill sets. I appreciate any advice or, anything you can do for me." You'd be surprised at how powerful that message can
Mm-hmm.
be. And I strongly encourage people to tailor those messages too, right? Because if you do it through LinkedIn, they give you an option to automatically send something over,
Mm-hmm.
but they do that for everybody. So then it becomes, very autonomous and impersonable, if you will. So I think by tailoring that message again, doing that research, being intentional with it, and doing some research on that individual before you send it is a great way to stand out. Doing company research, another great way.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at their values, their principles, right? Be selective in your search, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people I see on LinkedIn apply for 500 jobs, 700 jobs. There's no way anyone, unless they're a lot smarter than me, is maintaining all of that information, right? So
Yeah.
be intentional about your search. Do research on a company before you apply for the position,
Mm.
and make sure that you understand their values, their principles, the direction maybe of the business. I think those things will help you stand out a lot, whether it be on the front end or it be once you're in interviews, you're able to speak to those things.
Yeah. I love
Right?
that.
Definitely make somebody stand out.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love how you said if you do reach out, you said you need to also follow up with this is how I can add value.
Of
And so
course.
you need to like be purposeful in knowing that, hey, if you're going to apply for this position, kind of do some research and figure out what can you bring to the organization that's going to help you stand out a lot. Hey, I do want to ask kind of a follow-up question. Like if you hire recruiters, how do you know you're going to get what's a good recruiter look like? Because there's some people listening to the show right now. They're trying to find their next as a recruiter. And so what makes a good recruiter?
Well, I think, first and foremost, recruiting is a very rewarding career,
Mm,
right? It's very, very rewarding. I think you have to be a really great people person
mm,
in order to be a great recruiter. And I say that because I know a lot of recruiters, and sort of me being one of them, right, that fell into recruiting. I think a lot of us that are recruiters today
yep.
do. I think that's okay. But to be a great recruiter, you really have to care about a couple of things, and that is the journey of the people that you're working with.
Mm,
Okay, so that's going to be your candidate, it's going to be your hiring manager, right? They go through a journey when they go and hire. Finding a job, hunting for a job can be just as stressful as getting married or losing a loved one.
mm,
So it's important that you understand that, and that it's
mm,
important to you that you take care of those people on that journey.
mm,
The other thing that I think is important, the other about being a recruiter, is really being intentional with everything that you do. And
mm,
I teach this to my team a lot. It's be intentional about which candidates you present. Be intentional about how you communicate with your leaders. Be intentional about what feedback and how you provide feedback to candidates. Let's say they're not selected,
Mm,
right? It
mm,
provides an overall better experience for everybody. It paints the company in a better light.
mm.
You really have to be intentional. And that's hard to do in today's environment, Bruce. Recruiters are being asked to do a lot today. And it's challenging, and the candidate expectation is going up. They want to hear not only back immediately or within a certain time frame, but they also want specifics on potentially why they weren't selected, or
Mm.
when is the leader going to get back to us. Oftentimes we don't even know the answer to those questions. We're chasing it down as well. But yeah, it's very challenging. So definitely you have to care about people and their experiences, their
Yeah.
journey, and then be intentional about what you do, your
Yeah.
actions day to day.
Yeah. Oh, you said challenging. I heard Maxwell one time said everything worthwhile is uphill. And but when you mentioned you mentioned that the importance of being a recruiter, it's an honorable profession, and it made me think about whenever I got into sales for my company, sales and marketing for the Armstrong Company, and I remember continuing to listen to these tapes from these incredible motivational speakers, and they were talking about how sales and whatever profession they're doing is such an honorable profession, and it all centered around helping people.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
at first, I thought I was just working for a moving company until I started looking at it from a different perspective and helped. I helped I helped a friend's mom move, and she moved from assisted living from Dallas to Houston. I remember the impact that felt, and all of a sudden, before I thought, well, doctors, lawyers, teachers, those are the honorable position. And then after I moved here, I was like, wow, this is honorable what I'm doing. And then when I think about recruiters, you're helping people like get jobs and helping organizations move forward and adding value. And so when you said that, that really struck a chord with me. And I love how you frame that up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because there's a story that I can tell you just happened. A leader in the industry asked me, what keeps you in recruiting? And he was talking about how it's so cyclical, right? You got one open rec and then it closes, and then you got another open rec and then it closes.
Yep.
Well, the simple answer to that is every hire that we make is somebody's life that we are potentially changing,
Mm,
whether it be through an excellent benefits package or a dream job title or profession, or it be a compensation increase. And that, makes it easier for them to provide for their family. You never know what situation somebody's in, but you have the opportunity as a recruiter, if you do it right, to really make an impact on somebody's life.
mm.
And that's the opportunity that we have as recruiters. I really enjoy it. It's what keeps me going.
Mm. It's what I call the lane of significance. This is so good. Oh my goodness, Danny. I got to tell you, this is giving me chills. This is such a good conversation. I want to ask you one more question before I shift over to it's time to accelerate. And I want to ask you a question around do you have like I don't know, do you have like a practice or a habit that helps you continue to grow in your profession? Or just in in your personal life, anything you do that stood out that you've like, hey, I've made this a habit and this has really helped me continue my growth.
Well, I wish I had a really cool answer for this. I know a lot of folks, they run 3 miles every day,
Yeah,
right? Or
yeah.
they'll read a book, once a month, right? It's a new book once a month, whatever it is. There's a lot of really cool answers to this question. But in reality, in my house, with 5 daughters, 3 dogs, 2 snakes, an aquarium, not to mention being a master student, founder of Tailored Vets, it's incredibly difficult, Bruce, to maintain a daily habit.
Uh,
Now we've tried some things here and there, but I'll say this: the one thing that I'm very intentional about, by any means necessary, whatever it is making my bed.
mm,
I think it's very easy to jump up in the AM and get straight to the day,
yeah.
right? Stopping to make your bed, whether it's right after you jump out of it or it's right before you
Mm,
leave the house, make your bed because you would have already accomplished the first task of the day. And I
mm,
can't take credit for this. There's a book on this called "Make Your Bed." It's from an admiral who served in the military. Definitely encourage people to check it out. But you've already accomplished this small sense of pride to kick off your day. And every now and again, I'll go and make my daughter's bed too to try and teach them the same principle. But make your bed.
It's
It'll
awesome.
help keep you on track as you go throughout your day and throughout your life, really.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you just got recognized from Dallas HR, Recruiter of the Year. You have this incredible organization that you're continuing to stay in pursuit to help those in transition. You're doing all these great things. I just want to ask you, like, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, there's a lot that I can probably speak to here, and the Army actually raised me in my early careers to be proud of achievements and awards and
Yeah.
recognition. But to be honest with you, as grateful as I am for all of those things, and I feel like I've received quite a bit of them. What's most rewarding and the thing that I'm most proud of is the people that I've worked with, right?
Mm,
The relationships that I've been able to build, and seeing those relationships, seeing their skills grow, their love of recruiting blossom,
mm,
right? Because there's another side to recruiting that kind of be unpacked if you have the right people,
mm,
in your network. It's very rewarding, and it makes me proud, every day. So
mm.
I
I
think
love that.
that's it for me.
I love that. That's fantastic. You should be proud. You're doing some great work. You're surrounded by some great people. I know some of the mentors that you had mentioned, and
Yeah.
this is so good. Hey, I want to shift to it's time to accelerate for some fun questions as we kind of conclude here. The first question I like to ask is favorite book or favorite podcast to help you stay in growth mode.
Yeah, so TA Talk Talent to Me by
Mm,
Rob Stevenson. It's a great one.
mm,
It's a great a show that releases every Wednesday. They bring on new guest speakers from various organizations, often leaders in TA in those fields. But it's a global podcast, so I love learning what is everybody else doing outside of the
mm,
states, and what are some best practices, some things I can implement in my journey. So that's my go to work Wednesday listen to.
mm.
But yeah, it's definitely a great one to catch up on.
I love that. I will tell you that's the one common trait of high performers. They are continuous learners, and there's always something to learn. Hey, what's something, speaking of learning, what's something you've always wanted to learn?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to learn, really a fun fact, how to fly a plane.
What?
Yeah, I want to be a private
That's fantastic.
pilot. I want to get my private pilot's license, and I'm on track to do that after I finish my master's program. Really excited about it. My wife's supportive of it.
I
Yes,
love
I
it.
got to sign
I
off.
love it.
So
That's
that's what
fantastic.
I've always wanted to learn.
I love how you said, as soon as I finish my master's, I'm going to.
I got it on the books.
I love
It's on the
that.
calendar
This is
already,
so
Bruce.
fantastic. I love that. And you're going to accomplish that. I just know you will. Hey, what's something people are surprised to find out about you, Danny?
Sure. Well, I mean, based on your expression, I mean, and as many others' expressions, is that I have five daughters, right? So that's kind of uncommon, I think, in today's world. But the other thing that I'll say that people are surprised to find out is that I'm actually quite good at gaming. So,
Mm,
playing video games.
mm,
I play a lot of strategy and
mm.
first-person shooter games, and I actually considered quitting my day job to be a live gaming streamer. Yeah, I did. But don't worry, I'm not that great. So we're still here. Container Store, you still have me for a while.
That's so good. Oh, gaming. Oh my goodness. That is so fantastic. Okay, here's the last question. Danny, 10 years older, is around the corner and he's knocking at your door and you are going to get up and go answer that door. What's he going to tell you?
For me, it's that it was all worth it.
Mm,
In my pursuit of giving back to others, Bruce, I often find myself sacrificing a lot, right? I've
yeah.
sacrificed sleep, hours of sleep,
Yeah.
time, energy, money at times. And
Hmm.
I've always put myself last so many times. It's tough to do day in and day out, right?
Yeah.
So if you're on a mission or you have a passion that is taking time or energy from you, maybe even money from you, keep going.
Hmm.
Hard work, determination, and
Hmm.
a sufficient amount of self-sacrifice pays off.
Hmm.
It'll be worth it.
Yeah. I love that. That's a wise 10 years older Danny Rojas. Man, I appreciate you coming on the show today and just sharing perspective, and again, I've got 2 pages of notes here, and I've learned a lot just from you, and I know people that are listening to the show are going to learn a lot as well. Hey, if they heard something that you shared, and by the way, I'm going to put some of your links in the show notes that we talked about, but if they heard something that you shared and they're like, man, I want to connect with Danny, what's the best way for them to connect?
Sure. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, of course. All right, follow me there. They can email me directly at my Container Store email. That's DA Rojas at containerstore.com. And of course, they can see me at the Container Store, right? So I visit our stores frequently here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Go pick out yourself some containers, design a custom space, and you never know, you might find me recruiting there or designing a space for myself.
I love that, man. This has been so good. I appreciate you. Congratulations, recruiting leader of the year. Very, very deserving.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I know that your team and your family and all your friends are very proud of you, and you're just doing great work. And I'm so grateful that we connected, and now I get to share our conversation with others, and hopefully help them in some way. So for that, I say thank you. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to share this.
Of course, Bruce, it's been a great time. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay. Hey, I'll talk to you later, man.